The sound has no source, no end. You sit in the control booth, 12 monitors staring back at you. Each one shows the same thing, motionless men behind steel and glass. You've been on shift for 6 hours, but time here doesn't move in hours. It moves in cycles: door check, feed, report, repeat. A heartbeat without pulse. You adjust your radio volume, though no one ever calls. You press the intercom, whisper a test phrase. Unit C, status green. No answer. The silence acknowledges itself. You look down at your hands. They rest on the console, perfectly still. Takes a second to remember they're yours. Some nights, you swear the cameras are watching you back. They tell you ADX Florence is where order lives. A place designed to contain chaos, the murderers, the bombers, the lifers. But no one warned you that containment leaks. That when you stare into the stillness long enough, it begins to stare back. The manual said, maintain professional detachment. The manual never said what to do when detachment becomes permanent. You used to joke that you were part of the machine. Now you're not sure where the gears end and you begin. 0400 hours. The briefing room smells of coffee gone metallic. You and 7 others sign in. The sergeant reads the overnight log. No incidents, 1 medical escort, 2 temperature fluctuations in Unit H. He repeats the mantra. No interaction. No emotion. No deviation. You nod. Everyone nods. The ritual matters more than the words. Your badge catches the light. For a second it looks like a mirror. You pass through 8 doors to reach the control pod. Each door seals behind you with a hiss and mechanical sigh. The air pressure shifts, pressing against your skin like an invisible hand. By the 3rd door, conversation dies. By the 5th, thought does. You arrive in the booth, suspended between 2 corridors of cells. A glass coffin from which you watch 50 men who will never touch another human being. You place your coffee next to the console. It tastes of static and disinfectant. Every 15 minutes you log. 6 o'clock, inmate C-112 sitting on bunk. 6:15 C-113 lying prone. 6:30 C-114 verbalizing to self. The cursor blinks on the screen. A tiny pulse in the dark. You type words, not meanings. After a while, the reports read like prayers to an indifferent God. You notice it around hour 3, the hum shifts pitch. It isn't the ventilation. It's your ears manufacturing input. You've read about it in the Bureau's psychological briefings. Subjective auditory response. You used to think that was an inmate symptom. Now you understand it's contagious. A whisper threads through the static of your headset. Says your name. You don't check which channel it came from. Breakfast. You open the mechanical tray ports one by one. Slide. Clang. Slide. Clang. Plastic trays, protein cubes, paper cups. Hands appear for seconds. Vanish. No faces. Just wrists pale under fluorescent light. You note compliance on the tablet. Another cycle complete. The repetition soothes you until it doesn't. Then it becomes something else. A rhythm you can't escape. You once believed these were the worst of the worst. Terrorists, killers, traitors. But after 5 years, the labels blur. The man in C-114 hums to himself. The man in D-206 hasn't spoken in months. The worst look more like ghosts than threats. You remember training modules about object permanence of danger. They taught you to imagine violence where none is visible, to stay vigilant, to keep your body tense against a threat that never comes. That tension never leaves. Even at home, at 1,000 hours you walk the tier. The glass walls reflect your own image, helmet, vest, sidearm. Each cell shows you back to yourself, slightly warped. You pass 20 mirrors and 20 versions of your face. You avoid eye contact with all of them. A former officer once told you, you start to look like the place. You laughed then. You don't now. At cell C-117, a voice speaks softly. Officer James, you still there? It's not allowed. You're not supposed to respond. But something in the tone, calm, almost kind, pulls you closer. You clear your throat, step back, check the monitor. The inmate is staring at the ceiling, not you. He wasn't talking to you at all. He was talking to the air. Still, the use of your name stays in your head for hours. You file an incident report about unauthorized verbalization. No one reads it. The act of writing is the point, a purge, a proof that the system still functions. The warden's memo last month said staff burnout remains within expected range. Expected. You imagine a graph somewhere plotting your mind in percentages. You eat in the booth. Packaged meal, 15 minutes. The monitor glow paints your sandwich gray. Across the intercom, another officer murmurs, "You ever dream the alarms?" You don't answer. He doesn't repeat it. Later, you'll wonder if he actually said it. During academy years, you studied use of force continuum, communication control, stress inoculation. No one mentioned moral fatigue. Now it defines your life. Every decision is a choice between procedure and instinct. Instinct feels human. Procedure feels safe. You always choose procedure. That's why you're still here. The fluorescent light starts to pulse faintly, a rhythm too slow for the eye but perfect for the brain. Your breathing synchronizes with it. Somewhere, an inmate bangs on his door. The sound echoes through reinforced corridors, stripped of direction. You write auditory disturbance in D block and feel nothing. The words arrive on the screen without your awareness, like automatic writing. You rub your wrists. The skin beneath the cuff of your uniform is raw, permanent indentation. The body forms its own restraints. Your therapist, back when you still went, called it somatic memory. She said you carried the building inside you. You stopped going when she asked if you ever dreamt of the inmates. 1,600 hours. You log the final observation round. All inmates accounted for. No anomalies. You check the glass one last time. Your reflection looks older than this morning. Maybe older than the building itself. You remove your headset. The silence that follows is louder than noise. 8 doors again. Your pulse quickens as you reach the outer gate. Each hiss of air feels like exhalation. When you step outside, the sunlight hits like violence. The world moves, cars, clouds, wind, and it feels wrong. You stand in the parking lot too long, trying to remember how to breathe without counting. No interaction, no emotion, no deviation. You whisper it once, for no reason, and realize it sounds like prayer. The next morning you arrive early. Sleep had the texture of concrete, heavy, dreamless. In the mirror above the sink you notice the outline of your earpiece still pressed into the skin behind your jaw. The drive to Florence feels shorter every day. It's not the distance that's shrinking, it's time. Inside the gatehouse, another officer jokes, "Welcome to tomorrow." He's right. Every day here feels like the one that follows the last but never ends. Back in the booth, you wipe a fingerprint from the monitor glass. Your reflection slides over the image of an inmate pacing in his cell. For a moment, you can't tell whose outline belongs to whom. You blink. The two merge again. It happens more often lately. The psychologist who briefed your unit once warned. Chronic exposure to confinement can lead to perceptual blending. You see yourself where you're not supposed to. You laugh then. Now it isn't funny. Everything at ADX is proof of life. Green lights, status logs, door icons glowing steady. You tick through the checklist. Every click feels like a heartbeat. Every completed task feels like an exhale. The order reassures you, but only while it lasts. When the list is done, you're left alone with the hum again. Order without noise is indistinguishable from nothingness. Around hour 4, you begin hearing faint conversations over the radio. They start mid-sentence. Laughter, a half-heard question, then silence. You check the channel list, all green, no traffic. You know what it is, auditory patterning, the brain's way of turning static into speech. But awareness doesn't help. Once you hear a voice, you start waiting for it to come back. When it doesn't, the absence is worse than the sound. You step into the corridor for a security round. The air tastes metallic, filtered too many times. Your reflection stalks you from every pane of reinforced glass. An inmate is standing motionless, forehead against the window. You raise your flashlight, check for breathing, yes. He doesn't blink. Neither do you. After 10 seconds, you look away first. At lunch, you sit in the staff break room. No one speaks. Forks scrape plastic trays like insects in the walls. A rookie tries to start a story about his kids. The sergeant cuts him off. Save that for home. You chew in silence. You've learned that the less you remember of home, the easier the day becomes. Later, during a refresher session, the staff psychologist shows a video on resilience in high-security operations. Stock footage of smiling officers jogging, soft piano music, text overlays. Breathe, balance, believe. The words bounce off the concrete walls and die. You feel the absurdity tighten in your chest. Laughter rising where it shouldn't. You swallow it. The psychologist's eyes linger on you a second too long. Evening inspection. Cell D202. The inmate refuses his meal. You record it. Protocol requires nothing more. But the refusal stays with you. A silent protest, a tiny act of autonomy. You wonder if he does it to feel control or to remind you that you have none. Either way, it works. Back in the booth, the sound returns. The rhythmic thump of footsteps echoing through steel corridors. It might be real, could be a cleaning crew. You log it anyway. After 5 years, you've learned the system prefers false alarms to silence. You stare at the screen until the pixels seem to breathe. Your reflection swims in them like a trapped fish. You reach out to touch the glass. The image ripples, only your hand shaking. Off shift. You drive home on autopilot, headlights painting the asphalt in surgical white. Your wife asks if you want dinner. You say, stand by. She freezes. You correct yourself. Sorry. She smiles politely but looks away. Later, in bed, the quiet ceiling reminds you of the booth. You close your eyes and the hum returns. It follows you everywhere now, a portable silence. When you dream in surveillance angles. High-mounted cameras, wide-angle lenses, everything bathed in static light. Sometimes you review footage in your sleep. When you wake, you try to write the reports before realizing they don't exist. You stop mentioning the dreams. The department's mental health forms are short checkboxes that decide careers. You check no symptoms. It's easier that way. Next week, Officer Reyes calls in sick. You learn he transferred after a stress incident. No one says more. You find his initials carved faintly into the metal desk in the booth. The scratch marks look deliberate, measured like tally marks. You start adding your own next to them, one per shift. You don't count days anymore. You count lines. Days blend. Memory folds in on itself. The building dictates your rhythm now. Air cycle, light flicker, patrol tone. Your internal clock resets to the hum. Sometimes you can't tell if it's morning or evening. On a rare day off, sunlight hurts. The sound of birds registers as static. You go back to the car and sit in silence until it feels normal again. One night you notice a dead pixel on monitor 3. It glows faintly red, a single dot in the grayscale feed. You can't stop watching it. Hours pass. The dot seems to move, but you know it's not. When you blink, the afterimage follows, hovering in your vision like a warning light that never goes out. During inspection, a guard drops his radio. The sudden noise shatters the stillness like glass. Your body reacts before your mind does. Adrenaline surge, muscles locking, heart hammering. You realize you're shaking, hands still on your holster. Nothing happened, yet everything did. The sergeant's voice through the intercom. All units, remain calm. You want to laugh. Calm is the only thing you have left, and it's killing you slowly. You sit again before the screens. The hum steadies. Heart rate slows. The machine resumes breathing through you. In the reflection of the monitor glass, the line between guard and inmate dissolves. Two figures sharing one silence. For the first time, you understand what the prisoners mean when they say, "The day never ends." The night shift is the purest version of the job. No deliveries, no escorts, no training modules. Just the booth and the hum and the glow of the screens. You sit very still, as if movement might trigger an alarm. The building breathes. You match it. On monitor 6, a man lies on his bunk with his hands folded across his chest. He has held that pose so long the image looks like a photograph. You check the notes. Self-soothing, non-communicative, compliant. You type it again because the system wants fresh proof the world remains the same. The cursor blinks. You blink with it. A memory arrives uninvited. Your first week here, when you still believed the glass separated good from bad, order from chaos. You thought the control booth was a kind of lighthouse. Now it feels more like a mirror floating between storms. You lower the headset volume. Silence swells to fill the space. Somewhere in the building, a door breathes and seals. You check the event log, automatic systems test, scheduled. Even the quiet is choreographed. At 0320, a muffled voice rises from monitor 11. A man is standing under the camera, eyes toward the ceiling as if surveying another sky. You increase audio just enough to register syllables without meaning, like mist condensing into language. Officer, can you? The sentence never finishes. He doesn't seem to expect an answer. Protocol, do not respond. Practice, do not respond. But there's a beat of ungoverned time, barely a breath, where your hand hovers near the intercom button. You feel the desire to do something so small it would vanish in the logs. To say, I hear you. You don't. You record verbalizing. Tone neutral. No directives issued. For a long minute after, your pulse makes its own sound. The building and the body argue over who conducts time. You take a tear walk because the booth has begun to feel like a thought you can't stop having. 8 steps, pause. 8 steps, pause. The pattern makes a corridor in your head longer than the actual one. The glass panels return your shape from every angle, bending your shoulders inward until your posture looks like apology. At cell D107 you glance down and see the faintest smear on the floor just inside the door. Cleaner's residue catching light. A nothing detail. You linger anyway, grateful for a trace of imperfection. The man inside watches you without expectation. His eyes are not hostile, only steady, the way windows look out at weather they cannot feel. You nod out of habit, useless, unseen, and move on. Back in the booth, a laminated card taped to the console catches your eye. Core principles: safety, security, professional detachment. Detachment was easy when it meant don't get baited. It became harder when it meant don't be moved. Now it means don't be, not fully, not here. You think of the rookie who asked about dreams. You imagine telling him the truth. That detachment isn't an action but a shape you grow into, like a cast that never comes off. On monitor 2, a hand passes through the tray slot, hesitates, withdraws. You watch that hesitation like weather. You log nothing because there's no category for it. You start keeping a private inventory, unwritten, unlogged, of small, human deviations the building cannot register. A pause before a tray is retrieved. A man standing to listen when footsteps pass. The way somebody straightens a folded blanket twice, then once more after a long minute. The single hair trapped under a fluorescent casing, strangled by static. You carry this secret catalog like a contraband amulet. It doesn't violate policy because it doesn't leave your head. But it presses against the rule printed on plastic. Professional detachment. What if the last profession you learn is witness? At 0410 the radio emits a grainy burst. Nothing. Then quiet. You feel words beneath the static, like closed captions under a blank screen. Your eyes ache. You close them and listen the way you used to listen for your child breathing in the next room, counting breaths to convince yourself the world would continue. When you open them, the screens have not changed. Of course they haven't. That's the point. On the glass, your face floats like a subtitle the scene doesn't need. A sensor ping. Yellow, not red. You track it to an airflow irregularity in C block, likely an automatic purge. Still, your body ignites along old training pathways. Check, verify, confirm, breathe. Another officer's voice comes soft through the channel. C block test. All steady. His tone is casual, a human contour in a flat landscape. You're grateful for it and resent it simultaneously, the reminder that a person still lives at the other end of the system. You answer with the smallest permitted syllables. Copy. The word scratches your throat on the way out. Unused voice touching air. You lean back and close your eyes for a count of 5. When you open them, the screen on monitor 3 returns your gaze with an intensity you didn't put there. It's just your face. but also the face of someone who has learned to keep a building alive. You whisper, no radio, no intercom, just into the booth air. I'm right here. The sentence has no addressee, or too many. Shift change will come. Sunlight will do its ordinary violence to your pupils. Traffic will make its ordinary sense. Someone will ask what you want for dinner, and you will not say stand by. But the building will travel with you. You'll catch yourself checking the angle of a hallway light in your home. You'll pause at the refrigerator like it's a panel that requires a passcode. You will wake at 2:17 with the certainty you've missed a round. The therapist once said, "Your nervous system has adopted the building schedule." You nodded because the explanation fit neatly into language. It didn't change what your body believed. A thought arrives without permission, an arrow through soft matter. Is obedience the last luxury you can afford? You have obeyed the rules, precisely, cleanly, long enough to become the rule's shape. Kept you safe. Kept everyone safe. And yet, the man who asked can you did not finish the sentence. You finished it for him silently. You filled in hear me and then filed verbalizing tone neutral. The world will not punish you for that substitution. The world will not notice. You do. A maintenance crew arrives for a fluorescent ballast replacement down the tier. For a few seconds the corridor dims, and a wedge of imperfect shadow cuts across the floor. You watch it the way a thirsty person watches ice melt. The shadow moves half an inch and then is erased by new, flawless light. You realize you were holding your breath, as if the darkness might have been enough to reset something inside you. The log receives its notation. Lighting maintenance completed. No field for relief. At 0528, close to shift end, a tray slot sticks. Your gloved hand meets the hand on the other side for less than 2 seconds. Not skin, plastic to plastic, but contact nonetheless, a friction of surfaces passing, heat faint through material. Both of you retract instantly, each pretending it did not happen. The report will say, tray port cleared of debris. No issue. You will remember the way heat travels through a barrier, nuance finding the seam. For 2 seconds you knew and were known. You look again at the core principles card. Somewhere between the words and their enforcement, an unprinted directive has been running in your head for years. Do no harm to the part of you that can still recognize a human shape. It isn't rebellion. It isn't permission either. It's how you walk out at the end of each shift with a map that still contains oceans and not only grids. Before leaving the booth, you open the drawer where you keep spare forms. At the bottom, a thin strip of aluminum from an old panel, smooth and cool. On it, the faint tally lines you began after Reyes transferred. You add another notch, careful and quiet. You do not count them. Counting would turn the marks into a sentence. You are not ready to read it. You slide the strip back and close the drawer softly, as if not to wake something. 8 doors. The morning is bright, indifferent. The sky looks too large, as if the world has been left untended all night. You stand under it and wait for your pupils to learn the lesson again. That there are distances greater than the length of a corridor, that sound can arrive without echo. Your phone vibrates, just a calendar reminder, unthreatening. The small alarm still jolts your shoulders. You breathe until the startle drains away. On the drive home, the highway hum disguises itself as ventilation. You crack the window to let the wrong noise in. It helps. In the shower, water on tile makes a sound you have not heard in months. Unstructured, chaotic, forgiving. You stand still and let it drum a different clock across your shoulders. You think, inexplicably, of the inmate folding his blanket a 3rd time after the 2nd. Of the pause before the tray withdrew. Of the whisper that never asked for anything clear enough to deny. None of it belongs on a report. All of it belongs to the part of you that refuses to become a surface. You draft an email to the staff psychologist. Not requesting accommodation, requesting language. What do we call the fatigue that isn't panic and isn't apathy? The slow rearranging of the mind to fit a room. You delete it. You're not afraid of the form so much as the answer. Instead, you send a different message to yourself, unsent, unsaved. Remember the catalog. Then add a 2nd line. And remember you are in it. Back at the prison the following week, You begin the shift by cleaning the booth glass before the monitors warm. The cloth squeaks once, an organic sound before silence resumes its office. You sit. You place your palms lightly on the console, not as if claiming it, but as if greeting a difficult colleague. The building breathes. You breathe with it, but not only with it. On monitor 11, the man who speaks in unfinished sentences stands and faces the door. He doesn't knock. He doesn't move. You feel the beginning of a sentence between you, like a wire unspooled but unconnected. You do nothing that violates the book. You do something the book cannot see. You hold that moment for both of you until it becomes a place. The log receives the facts, all units stable, the truth unlogged. For one breath, the system did not erase either of us. The shift winds down. The hum resumes its original key. You complete the last check with the care of placing a child to sleep. Small motions, no noise, no suddenness. There is nothing to fix and everything to hold. You understand, perhaps for the first time in a way that does not break you, that your job is not merely to prevent harm, but to keep territory open inside yourself where recognition can live. You stand. You remove the headset. The quiet is enormous and not empty. You walk the 8 doors. The day beyond is waiting with indifferent grace. You say, aloud, to no one in particular and to everyone who might someday need the sound, I hear you. That goes nowhere, changes nothing, and it keeps something alive. The monitors dim. The booth exhale fades. Outside, morning arranges itself into ordinary errands, small talk, traffic signals, coffee steam. Inside, the Supermax begins again. Breathing through vents, counting minutes, polishing its silence. Somewhere between those worlds, a guard steps into daylight carrying an invisible ledger not of incidents, but of moments. Pauses, hesitations, human shapes that refuse to become data. On paper, nothing happened. In a life, something did. This has been Shadow of Justice. The search for truth continues.